Hello everyone. I welcome you all to the YuktMind's initiative of 10 minutes and newspaper done. Yesterday, UPSC results were announced and toppers once again emphasized the importance of newspaper. So let's finish today's newspaper quickly. Today is 24th May and we have selected 10 news for today. If you want to download the PDF of the gist, you can visit our Telegram channel and website Daily Current Affair tab. First news, Operation Dost. On 6th February, a massive earthquake struck southern Turkey and parts of Syria, causing immense loss of lives and damage to property in the region. India promptly sent relief materials and help to the afflicted regions, showcasing disaster relief diplomacy and humanity at the time of crisis. The Indian Army's operation to assist Turkey and Syria is named Operation Dost. We also recently covered another similar sounding operation called Operation Dhwast. If you know what it is related to, you can write in the comments below. Second news, PM's visit to Australia. Australia has renamed a suburb in Western Sydney, Australia, Harris Park, as Little India, where the Indian community celebrates festivals and events such as Deepavali and Australia Day. PM Modi announced that a new Indian consulate would soon open in Brisbane. Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Sydney as a part of the third and final leg of his three-nation visit after concluding his visits to Papua New Guinea and Japan. PM Narendra Modi interestingly used a cricket analogy to describe the fast expanding India Australia ties as T20 mode. He also raised with Australian PM Anthony Albanese India's concerns over the recent incidents of attacks on temples in Australia and pro Khalistani elements in the country. Third news, Union Home Minister Amit Shah said that special efforts should be made to establish connectivity with 168 unconnected border villages. The villages are located along the Chinese border in Arunachal Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Uttarakhand and Ladakh. Why was such a need felt? The government's push for border villages and upgraded security comes at a time when issues with China are still to be resolved along the line of actual control in Ladakh. PLA troops are still squatting in Depsang Plain and Demchok. China is also upgrading its infrastructure along the LAC. Vibrant Villages program is significant in this context. It was approved on February 15 and covers approx 3,000 villages in 46 border blocks of 19 districts in 4 states and 1 union territory along the Chinese border. It is a centrally sponsored scheme for development of villages on the northern border, thus improving the quality of life of people living in identified border villages. It has been launched to stop migration from border villages. The Home Minister stated that district collectors in border districts should take at least 5 initiatives to give impetus to VVP, that is Village Vibrant program, such as promotion of tourism, agriculture, handicrafts and cooperatives and encouraging homestays. The scheme aids to identify and develop the economic drivers based on local, natural, human, and other resources of the border villages on the northern border. Development of growth centers on hub and spoke model through promotion of social entrepreneurship, empowerment of youth and women through skill development and entrepreneurship. Development of sustainable eco agri businesses on the concept of one village, one product through community based organizations, cooperatives, or NGOs. Fourth news, WHO's International Pathogen Surveillance Network. The WHO has warned that countries should not look away from COVID 19 and launched a global network to help protect people from infectious disease threats through the power of pathogen genomics. The International Pathogen Surveillance Network will provide a platform to connect countries and regions, improving systems for collecting and analyzing samples, using this data to drive public health decision making and sharing that information more broadly. Fifth news, to further strengthen bilateral relationship between India and Bangladesh, the Ministry of Railways in India handed over 20 broad gauge locomotives to its eastern neighbor. The Indian Railways is playing a vital role in improving and strengthening rail connectivity across the border and improving trade between both the countries. In June 2020, India had provided 10 locomotives to Bangladesh as a grant. Sixth news, The IT system deployed by PMGati Shakti Scheme, which has 1600 layers of information, is based on satellite imagery. The information which can be accessed layer by layer pinpoints exact location of rivers, forests, towns and rail links, so planning can be streamlined. Now what is PMGati Shakti Scheme? It is a digital platform to bring 16 ministries including railways, roadways for integrated planning and coordinated implementation of infrastructure connectivity projects. Note that Gati Shakti will subsume the 110 lakh crore national infrastructure pipeline and also other infrastructure projects like Bharatmala, Sagarmala, Udan, etc. Seventh news. On May 10, co-legislators at the European Commission signed the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. It has been described as a landmark tool to put a fair price on the carbon emitted during the production of carbon-intensive goods that are entering the European Union and to encourage cleaner industrial production in non-European Union countries. Now let's understand what is this carbon border adjustment mechanism. Its primary objective is to avert carbon leakage. It refers to a phenomenon where a European Union manufacturer moves carbon intensive production to countries outside the region with less stringent climate policies. In other words, replace EU manufactured products with more carbon intensive imports to the European Union. From 2026, once the CBAMs is finally implemented, importers in the EU would have to buy carbon certificates corresponding to the payable carbon price of the import had the product been produced in the continent under its carbon pricing rules. Now, why are countries worried with CBAM? It would initially apply to imports of certain goods and selected precursors whose production is carbon intensive and are at risk of leakage, such as the cement, iron, steel, aluminium, fertilizers, electricity, and hydrogen sectors. In 2021, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, had concluded that Russia, China, and Turkey were most exposed to this mechanism. Considering the level of exports to the Union in these sectors, it stated India, Brazil, and South Africa would be most affected among the developing countries. Countries in the EU combined represent about 14% of India's export mix for all products, steel and aluminium included. Now, its long term effects can be severe for multiple factors. First, EU being India's third largest trade partner, and given the latter's projected growth trajectories, that is, India, the size of exports will invariably rise. Secondly, CBAM scope would expand beyond its current ambit of steel, aluminium, iron, etc. to include other sectors as well. The carbon tariffs imposed will be proportionally higher, making Indian exports substantially uncompetitive with respect to manufacturers in European market. Finally, international climate policies will compel other countries to impose similar regulation, eventually translating to a significant impact on India's trading relationships and balance of payments. 8 news. Until recently, the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business ranking was the most popular indicator used by several experts across the board to gauge the strength of a country's institutions. The World Bank's ranking of countries was based on how easy it was to start a business, enforce contracts, resolve insolvencies, get construction permits, etc. in these countries. There were several controversies surrounding the doing business ranking, which was eventually scrapped by the World Bank in 2021. For one, there was always the risk that given the popularity of the World Bank's ranking, countries trying to improve their rankings could simply focus on the few narrow indicators that the World Bank trying to measure. For example, World Bank only focused on two cities, that is Mumbai and Delhi in India. Rest of the country was not taken in account. So India could only focus on Mumbai and Delhi to improve its ranking. Secondly, the World Bank, through its surveys, was measuring the experience of only a small set of businesses, whose experience may not necessarily reflect the reality faced by most other businesses in the country. Finally, in light of the increasing importance that was given to the rankings, there was pressure put on the World Bank from governments to rank their countries favorably, so that they invite more investment in their country. And we know there were few countries who had huge influence in World Bank like USA, UK, etc. Ninth news. Commerce Secretary Sunil Barthwal said at the inaugural session of the G20 seminar on trade and technology that India, an economy that has the advantage of the giant trinity, note the word, 1.3 billion Aadhaar cards and over 1 billion bank accounts and mobile phones, should go paperless in global trade to lower logistics cost, improve the turnaround time of ships, and enhance the efficiency of existing port infrastructure. Now, note that India, though, has been actively deploying technology and digitization, countries still depended heavily on paper documents when it came to cross border trade. 10th news, India's bureaucracy could hamper investments. Moody's. Moody's Investor Services cautioned that reform and policy barriers in India could hamper investments, even though it will be the fastest growing G20 economy over the next few years thanks to its growing manufacturing and infrastructure sectors. Now, this bureaucracy issue would reduce India's attractiveness as a destination for investment, especially when competing with other developing economies such as Indonesia and Vietnam. Thank you for watching. Let us know your feedback in the comments and keep visiting our website, Telegram, Instagram, and Twitter.